had its first ever annual safety week. This effort was spearheaded by Ron. And Ron, do you want to tell us a little bit about why Safety Week came about?
Safety Week was just another way for AIM to solidify our culture. It really gave us an opportunity to really define what we already thought. So we already wanted to do things the best way, but we thought that Safety Week and really rolling out and focusing on the 4 core values that we've always held near and dear in the safety department, we thought rolling them out to the rest of the company in the way that we did would be helpful to further the development of our culture.
That's great. And can you tell us a little bit about what those 4 core values are and what they represent?
Sure, Jess. The first day as overview, the second day of Safety Week, Tuesday, we covered integrity. The third day was trust. The fourth day was accountability, and the fifth day was commitment. And a little detail on each one. Integrity. The main focus of our conversations there was to have conviction to always do the right thing. The idea that we would always do the right thing, even when nobody is looking, is very important to keep our workers safe in their isolated individual roles, whether they're a driver or they're alone working on a truck as a maintenance technician or any other job. When you're working independently, integrity is important to keep that individual safe. Trust, the main focus of trust is that we want to have a good relationship between our managing supervisor and our employees. So we want to build that trust between those two individuals so that if the supervisor provides direction to an employee, he's going to trust that he's getting the safest possible assignment and direction to do a job in the safest way. We want to trust between the employee and the supervisor that job isn't going to violate any of our other safety initiatives or our other safety policies. So trust is one of the keys. In addition to that, trust really bolsters accountability and commitment, because if you don't trust your supervisor, the accountability or the maybe discipline that might come from that supervisor isn't going to come from the right place. So in the spirit of maintaining accountability, we need to have trust as one of those foundations. The fourth day was accountability, which we handled on Thursday. And the main focus of accountability, many people think right away of discipline, but in addition to discipline, we also want to include recognition. So it's really to recognize the work that we've done as a company, both good and bad, and that could be on a corporate level or an individual level or a personal level. I want to hold myself accountable to the highest possible standard. In addition to me holding my employees accountable, me holding my supervisor accountable. If my supervisor asks me to break a safety policy, we want our employees to trust that supervisor enough to call him out on it. So we want to hold each other accountable and kind of prop each other up. And on Friday, commitment, that really speaks to the idea that safety is a journey and that we are never going to make it to where we say, okay, we're a safe company, we can take our eye off the ball. As soon as we do that, that's when injuries happen, that's when accidents occur. And so commitment is about being in the business of keeping people safe over the long term. And that last bullet point for me is the key. Destination excellence, it's a journey. Will never arrive. It's something that we need to always be working on.
Tell us a little bit about what was kind of the situation where you saw the need for Safety Week? What was its birth?
So Safety Week was an idea from one of our co-presidents, Scott Fleming, who spent some time in the military. And they had a safety week in the military where they had a stand down and they had a quick safety message to start each day in his platoon. So that was an experience that he had in his life, and he wanted to bring that to AIM. He gave me the direction to have a safety week. This is our application of his idea. He spent a few minutes kind of talking about it and letting us know what he had in mind, that he wanted a safety message of the day that would affect every person from himself, the president, all the way to the newest employee at AIM. And this was our application of that idea.
You kind of talk about why safety is so important at AIM, specifically being a member of the transportation industry?
Obviously, in the transportation industry, there are a great number of people that we can affect. We've got a job that traditionally can be fairly risky as a driver or a mechanic. There are a number of hazards in our industry. Not only are there hazards for our employees individually, but we can affect anybody in the public as well. If we don't maintain a truck properly and a wheel falls off, that could injure or worse another person, an innocent bystander. We also have a great many hazards. As an operator of a motor fleet, we've got other motorists on the road that can impact us, and we want to do everything possible to avoid those sort of incidents.
And I think this really kind of ties those things together, the big picture of, these 4 things to kind of abstractly focus on throughout your day to achieve the greater whole, which is, safety throughout every action. Was that kind of your intention?
We really wanted people to try to build these things into their vocabulary. Following Safety Week, one of the goals is to get people to use the words on this page to try to give direction to employees, to communicate with each other, and to use one of the things here to rely on the strengths of others, whereas I'm going to rely on your strength to help me market the idea internally. So it's a matter of collaboration in certain cases, and whether there's a direct implication for safety or no implication really to safety, but the best way to do business, we think that this is the best way to do business and that the safe way is the best way.
I was a trainer and I went over these 4 core values in the overview for the week with my department. And my department isn't one that directly, has a lot of physical safety interactions. We're not out working on trucks. We're working in an office setting. So not all of the, safety focus applied to us in that way, but there was a lot of takeaways that we could get from these 4 core values that applied to other areas of our work that weren't necessarily safety, but were just creating a stronger work culture for us through the 4 core values. Was that your intention?
Really, we always believed all along that the safe way was the best way, and that these values could only be considered good. That showing integrity is always going to be a good thing. Trusting people and building trust for yourself in others is always going to be good. There's nothing in these values that could ever be considered bad. If I have an overly committed workforce, it might be bad for my employees' family, but if they're very committed to my company, it's always going to be good for my company. So I can't see where doing business in this way could ever be a negative. One of the things that we didn't expect really, in terms of what we expected and didn't expect, was the interplay between them. So when we defined and tried to put into words what we thought and define the core values, we didn't realize how much impact trust has on accountability, for example, or integrity has on commitment. If you have a boss whose integrity you question, you may not be as committed to him or the employee or her or the company. So that interplay really was surprising to us. The other thing that we found interesting was that the individual application of trust and the individual application of commitment, as we see on this page, those supporting bullet points really can be jumbled up and moved into almost any other category. If you want to relate timeliness to trust, that's absolutely possible. So I'm going to trust an employee that shows up at 7:55 every morning for their 8 o'clock shift and know that at 7:57, when they're not there, I have a problem. This person has overslept. This person is sick. This person may have been involved in a crash on the way to work, or something has happened when I know that at 7:55, I trust that they're always there. I don't need to worry about that. So you can make some connections between the other core values and these specific examples under each of the main core values.
And I found that to be true in, our department safety week training, was that there was a lot of overlap and we could kind of build off of each day, kind of as an evolution.
Right.
So, excuse me. So Ron, where do you see safety week going forward? What does the future look like?
Yeah, bigger and better. Because of the pandemic this year, our planning time was compressed. We had planned safety week for the springtime. And because of the uncertainty around the pandemic and having a number of people not at work, not on site, or laid off entirely due to the pandemic, we decided it was best to wait until we returned our staff back to the buildings and could do safety week in something closer to what we considered to be the right way. And the right way, what we considered at the beginning, was a face-to-face meeting between the employee and the supervisor, or a group meeting between the supervisor and the rest of that person's department. Some of those weren't possible. So during the pandemic, we've had to change that. We had Zoom meetings, we had phone calls, we had some socially distanced outdoor meetings, but that was the exception, not the norm. So next year, Safety Week, I expect to be earlier in the year, number one. So I expect it for springtime. I expect it to be kind of bigger and better with a little bit more of an air of celebration.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, I know I personally am looking forward to future safety weeks because I thought this one was a bang up success, and it was a time for us to just collaborate and think about, our practices daily and how we can be safer, we can be better, and how we can focus on these 4 core values to really improve our corporate culture. So thank you very much, Ron. Is there anything else that you want to add about safety?
I agree with everything that you said, Jess. One of the things that I would like to add is that we had a huge number of really good suggestions that came out of Safety Week. The feedback that we got from our employees was tremendous. Everybody, number one, first and foremost, really appreciated that we took the time to put this together. Number one. Number two, the suggestions. We got 30 to 40 suggestions. I have the list over here on my computer of things that we're working on as follow-up to Safety Week. 30 to 40 items that we didn't think were issues that employees voiced concern about. So as we work through those, we're not only building a safer environment for our employees, but we're building trust and letting them know that we're addressing their concerns. So we're bolstering the entire culture by addressing the concerns. So that's been a real key.
That's fantastic. Conrad, did you have anything, do you see any gaps in what we've reviewed?
No, I was actually just going to ask about the employee feedback, but that got covered. So,
Cool.
All right. I think I'm going to stop.
Anything that you think we ought to redo?
Okay, I'll ask you one more question. No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I think we're good. But if you could give everybody involved in Safety Week one takeaway, what would that be?
Build the vocabulary.
Build the vocabulary.
Build the vocabulary. Put this into your daily conversations, and that will help not only keep it in the part of your thought process, but keep it part of your employees' thought process. One of the goals that I had personally was not necessarily to change the way we think, but what we think about. So I wanted people to think about the hazards that they face. I wanted people to really fully consider the implications on the culture with their decisions. So we're really technical thinkers and problem solvers. Those are the traits that make us really good at our jobs. Whether I'm a logistics engineer, I'm a manager of truck drivers and dispatching freight, I've got a puzzle to put together. If I'm taking apart a truck and putting it back together to fix something, obviously I've got a puzzle, so I'm a problem solver. This is a problem I wanted to employ those brains to work on, was how to be safer. So I didn't want to change that technical skill set that we have, but I did want to change slightly the direction in what they apply that to. Does that make sense?
It does. And I feel that you've successfully achieved that